And she goes on camera.
I'm listening. If it ain't one thing, it's another over here. If it's not one thing, it's another. All right. Am I coming back? There I am. Hey, how you doing, sir?
Hello, ma'am. I'm sending you something right now, which gives uh, updated information from today on LA. So I'm
Okay.
sending that to you
We'll
now.
do that last. We'll do that last because
I sent you two.
that's like our
So
marquee story, and I know you have a lot to add to it to give to us.
do I?
So first of all, we have a couple of updates today, and I want to share some information with you guys. I hope everyone is doing well. Um, as you can see, I am taking some allergy medicine, so that lets you know how my day is going. Let you know how my day has been working out up here with the third day of spring. It's killing me. How are you?
I am well. Long
Have you
day.
warmed up to your liking down to
I
I
mean,
know
I'll take
I know that for
60.
you,
I'll
I
take
know for you
60.
it's different than my idea of warm. So
I will take 60 because the 28 degrees that I woke up to yesterday was not good.
listen, the thing is though, I'm waking up to frost on my car and leaving work at 70 degrees, and I'm like, the kamikaze of the weather is not it's not
We got
bueno.
listen. We had a whole 15-minute tirade about Miss Winter. Girl, your shift is over. You came late to
Okay,
your shift. Your shift
okay.
is over,
Clock
baby.
out, ma'am.
It's time for
Clock
our good girls to come up in here. You're not one of our leading ladies down here to the
out.
club.
Okay.
You work 12 noon to 4. That's it. It's time for spring to come and hit the happy hour people, and our headliner is Summer, who's gonna be there from 9 to 1. But baby, we're not here for you. Spring gonna come and do a good 4 to 9, and then 9 to 1, 2 a.m. Our headliner is gonna be Summer, who's gonna give us everything. But we're not here for you, winter. You're here for the people who ain't got no job, who retired, paying their social security. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
Girl, get out of here with it. Get
Anyway,
out of here.
so with that being said, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and get into this because we had some good stuff to give you. Now, last week we
We
had a little
do.
change of scene, but we've gotten some good feedback on our conversation last week with Sean. A lot of people were impressed by him, and they felt that he's accomplished so many great things at such a young age. So the conversation went really well. We've picked up about maybe 20 subscribers since last week. So everything is well. Everything is well. So let's get into
How
it.
many we picked up?
First of all, about 20 or so. We're at
Okay.
five. We're at 538. I think last week we were at like 514, something to that effect. So we getting there, child. We getting there, slow but surely. Slow and steady wins the race, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple. We have a all right. So I have a quick testimonial, and then we have an update on our Tennessee State story, and then we'll get into some of the new things that we have going
I
on.
sent you to
So first
Tennessee
of
State,
all,
right? Did
what?
I send you to Tennessee State? Did I
Yes,
send that to you?
yes.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, no problem. So a couple of weeks ago, if you're on my main channel, you already know this information. And I was going to do a separate video, and I was so excited, and I just blurted it out on my channel. But a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to drag this out. I may do a full video later, but a couple of weeks ago, I applied. Well, back in October, I applied for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which is separate from the loan forgiveness program that is currently tied up in the court system at the Supreme Court right now, where you could get like a $10,000 credit. No, this is if you work in public service, if you're a teacher, firefighter, police officer, or what have you, and you've worked in public service, you may be eligible to have your student loans fully 100% paid off. And so I applied for the program. The program closed October the 30th of 2022. I think my package might have been submitted by October the like 13th or something like that. And I got a letter about 2 weeks ago letting me know that my application had been approved and that my student loans have been 100% paid off. I say that to say to you guys that yesterday I got, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, I got a tweet because I follow the Department of Education down to Twitter, and I got a tweet, and this was the tweet. I meant to send it to us so we could look at it in real time, but this was the tweet right here. It came from the Department of Education, so it came from the verified Department of Education website. I'll post this on our community wall, but it says new updates to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program with the link. It says if you work as a teacher, a first responder, or a government employee, you qualify for Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and it gives you the link to apply. I will put this on our community wall for any educator or anybody that falls under that what I just read. Please reach out, get the information, find out if you are eligible, because I thought it was too good to be true because I knew how much money I owed in student loans. And yes, when I got the letter, okay. So I wanted to give you guys that update because the program had closed on October the 30th, but it sounds like they've opened the program back up because that tweet is new. I just got that tweet like 2 days ago. Sounds like maybe they found some more money or whatever the situation is. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And like I said, I will put that on our community wall. Please, if you are listening to this on the replay or wherever, please reach out and check it out. Okay. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. The second update, a few weeks ago, El Teddy and I did a Code Red emergency 911 live about Tennessee State University, which is a historically Black college and university that was trying to be sucked up by the state university system in Tennessee. We do have an update. I'm going to say it's a update. So I'm going to read you guys that update. I'll put the link in the chat as always. The links are in our description box as always. So, well, I'm going to say as mostly always. As mostly always. Okay, so here is the update to the Tennessee State story. The link is being dropped in the chat as we speak. And hey everybody in the chat, 12 people in the chat, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys can hit that like button as you come on in, take a seat, child, get your notebooks out, because El Teddy will give you a quiz at the end. Okay. Dr. El Teddy will give you a quiz at the end. All right. What did I just do? All right. Sorry, y'all. I'm still having problems with my net over here. Okay, y'all ready? This is coming from WKRN.com, which is a local affiliate down in the Tennessee area. Nashville, Tennessee, okay? At a joint government operations subcommittee hearing on Monday, this was posted on February the 27th. So on Monday morning, lawmakers voted unanimously to extend the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees for at least 1 more year. It's a stark reversal from last week when Republican leadership indicated that it was in favor of changes for TSU leadership. From what I've seen, the problem that they've had there, I think changes are in order, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally told reporters last Thursday. The extension comes after a scathing audit from the comptroller of the Treasury resulted in serious findings, including that TSU increased its nearly 350% from about $6.4 million to over $28 million from last school year to this one. That led to a 217% increase in housing demand. That's something the comptroller said it did not have the money to do. The irrefutable fact is that on a day-to-day basis, the university is not a well-run organization, Comptroller Jason Mumpower said. I'm sorry. Hold on. But in Monday's committee hearing, Republican Dale Carr, the subcommittee chair, acknowledged Glover's work and asked her to stand and be recognized prior to the hearing. I think I skipped something. The comptroller's recommendations have Democrats, TSU leadership, and alumni saying this is a result of the state underfunding Tennessee's only public HBCU for decades. TSU has experienced decades of underfunding. Alumni President Association Charles Galbraith Jr. said. In 2021, it came out that the state had underfunded the HBCU by nearly $550 million over decades. If we had the money we would do, perhaps our budget wouldn't be falling down. The unanimous vote to keep the board is not binding. It's simply a recommendation to the full Government Operations Committee in the House Senate. And I think that part is the most important part of this, is that is merely a recommendation. It is not a guarantee that they will not come and try to take over the campus. I think that $550 million shortfall is important. What you got to say, Doc?
I think two things can be true at the same time. There can be bad administration, but also that doesn't mean that the state needs to take over. Maybe there needs to be some more oversight where they send people there to say, okay, this is where you're falling short. These are the things that you need to correct or work on, or that needs improvement. And here's how we expect it. Here's some steps to help you get that done, or some benchmarks to see that they are met. And here's a timeline to go along with those benchmarks. And at that point, that would allow the Board of Trustees for Tennessee State to have buy-in with that. And if it's time to make a change from university leadership, still allow the Tennessee State Board of Directors to make, those recommendations, and to make those wholesale changes, as opposed to the state coming in, taking over and putting their people, when we know they're not going to have Tennessee State University's best interest at hand. I'm sure with the robust alumni list that they probably have, they can find no shortage of, and I'm not saying that the people who are in charge have to be from Tennessee State. I know that's a common practice with HBCUs. They like to have someone who is an alumnus of that university. I don't think that that's something that has to be etched in stone. I do think that they maybe should be from an HBCU, so that they are intimately aware of all of the things that is involved with the culture, and everything that goes along with it. However, but that notwithstanding, I'm sure they can find somebody from Tennessee State. But I think you can do both. So if you all are saying, because really, let's just be honest, there are a lot of administrative issues going on in a lot of HBCUs. We know that. That's been chronicled. That still doesn't mean that the state should come in and take it over. So you can do both. You can come in, do some oversight. Here's where we see that there are issues. This is what you need to improve, and let that here are the benchmarks that we want to set for you to do that, and then let them do the. Now, if you do that, and the Tennessee State University Board of Directors doesn't do their part to meet those, standards or over benchmarks that you set for them, then that's another conversation. But you haven't even given them the opportunity.
Right. And I'm gonna say this, and again, this happened. And you might remember, El Teddy. I do not remember what school it was, but I remember there was a actual HBCU that I don't want to misspeak. But I feel like they sued for the shortfall. They were able to show how they had been underfunded for however many years, and they got a settlement from that state. And so I'm saying, I hear TSU saying Hey, everybody coming in. I hear TSU saying we know that there's a $550 million shortfall over the years of where we were underfunded as it compares to other state universities. And I don't remember what school it was. I don't remember what state it was. And I feel like that happened a few years ago. And I feel like, can we focus that? Can we focus on getting, because you're right. I agree 100%. We know that there is mismanagement. I'll be the last. I went to a HBCU, and as much as I love my HBCU, I'll be the last person to say that. Was it Maryland Eastern Shore? Cohan says it's Maryland Eastern Shore. Was it Maryland Eastern Shore?
It might have been.
Yeah, I would be the last.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I will be the last person to say that everything ran the way it's supposed to run.
But really, the problem with that is when they filed this lawsuit and litigation, where is it going? It's going to the Tennessee State Judiciary first, right? Or would they file federal lawsuit?
I feel like they could bypass the state, and that could be a federal case, because that wouldn't that fall under the federal law as it relates to, like, I'm no attorney. I'm not either.
I'm not, because in my mind, I'm thinking the federal state university systems are not federal, not federal. I'm not going to say federal government doesn't have jurisdiction over them, but what I'm saying is, would they fall under the jurisdiction of the federal government where they could sue to the federal government for something that the state did not do, when the state is the one who decides what they give out, what they allocate, and things like that? That's where my question comes.
Yeah, and that's a good question. And I feel like we might need to get an education attorney. We might need to reach out to an education attorney to ask, because I don't know the answer. And the only reason why I said federal is because I feel like that you could file under a federal discrimination lawsuit. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see that's why I was thinking federal. Now, V. Carter says that there is an older Forbes article that lists all of the nation's underfunding that is owed to HBCUs via the land grants, and it is billions. So, I know Tennessee's not weak, but I was just wondering, since that came up in the article, but guys, we're going to keep, we said we would keep an eye on it, and we are going to keep an eye on this. We know that it doesn't end here. We know that that's not a solution. That's kicking the can down the road a little bit. And I feel like they probably did that because maybe they didn't expect to get the response and the attention that it got. And maybe they were like, okay, we need to let this cool down. We need to wait till they're not paying attention anymore. But we'll keep our eye on it, you guys. We definitely will keep our eye on it. Okay. Where do we want to go next? Doc, we have a couple of articles today. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to we said we would do the unions last if we had time.
Let's do Michigan.
I was going to say, you want to do the Supreme Court case? Okay.
Oh, well, I know. We could do the Supreme Court. We could do the Supreme Court.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Michigan and I said Supreme Court. I'm done. Do you want to do?
I feel like we're missing an article. Are we missing an article?
No. Not based on what we said earlier.
Okay.
At least, let me say this. Not that I can think of. Let me put it like that. Not that I can think of. Because we said the Supreme Court, we said Michigan, we said the union.
I thought I had sent you another one, but I could be wrong. You're right. Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay. All right, I'm dropping the link in the chat. We are traveling to Michigan now, you guys. We are traveling up to Michigan. Let's see what they got going on in the state. The link is in the chat, so you can follow along. Michigan House votes to scrap A through F school grade system. This is dated March 21st, and this is coming from the Detroit News. All right, this is coming out of Lansing, Michigan. The House voted Tuesday to ditch an A through F letter grade system for overall academic performance of the K through 12 public schools. The bill, approved on a 63-45 vote in the Democratic-controlled House, would eliminate both the statewide system that assigns letter grades and rankings to public schools and the requirement that the Michigan Department of Education compiles a list of states' lowest performing schools determined through the grades and ranking. Hold on. Okay. The grading system, long opposed by state education officials, was approved in December of 2018 by a Republican-led legislature in the early morning hours of a lame duck session. Rep. Matt Kozar, the Plymouth Democrat and former teacher who sponsored the bill, compared the grading system to a confusing, incomplete piece of homework he'd expected from a student rushing in to make a deadline. What?
But you sponsored the bill. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. The grading policy, he said, is a duplicative, confusing system that received bipartisan opposition and passed the formerly Republican-led majority by the slimmest of margins. Maybe this allergy medicine has my brain clouded. I'm so confused right now. I'm going to keep reading the article, and you might just have to explain this to me, El Teddy. My brain is confused right now. It does nothing to actually improve a school's performance. It is way too focused on standardized testing data, which has no bearing on what our schools are dealing with. Rep. Jamie Green urged lawmakers to hold off on repeal and instead find a system that works for parents and children. It is time to stop ramming through legislation, Green said on the House floor. Kozar's legislation, House Bill 4166, was introduced March 2nd and voted out of the House Education Committee Tuesday morning after a brief hearing. Under the existing law, MDE is required by September the 1st to release A through F grades for public schools based on their performance on certain indicators and rankings or the metrics. Okay, all right, I got it now. My brain's cleared up now. Okay. The published grades and rankings are in addition to MDE school index score, which also measures school performance. The bill also would end a rule that MDE implement accountability measures for schools in the bottom 5% based on the grades, and the district and charter school authorizers not reopen a school at the same location as a low-performing school. Passage of the A through F system gave Michigan two separate accountability systems for its K through 12 schools. It was already using a system under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act, with state lawmakers imposed a new grading system. Michigan has a school index system with an overall index rating from 0 to 100 for each school based on student growth, proficiency, graduation rates, attendance rates, advanced coursework completion, post-secondary enrollment, staffing ratios, and the educational progress of students from families where English is not the primary language spoken at home. MDE officials have said that the A through F system does not conform with federal law requirements and that the Michigan schools are subject to two standalone accountability systems with similar but slightly different criteria for identification of low-performing schools. The State Board of Education supports getting rid of the system, calling it unnecessary and duplicative of information found the department's parent dashboard school transparency. Okay. The Michigan Department of Education has said that the grading system distills the performance of schools into overly simple letter grades and relies too heavily on assessment data to the exclusion of other important measures of student progress. The state school index already required by federal law that states identify low-performing schools and provide support to those identified schools. MDE will continue to identify and support low-performing schools through the school index system as it has done since 2017. Okay, we're almost done.
That's the basic gist of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the gist of it. I just want to make sure that is the gist of it. Okay, my brain was a little foggy at first. I got it now. So I got it now. Okay, go ahead, El Teddy.
So I'm hoping, as much as we talk on this channel about one state doing something and that being the blueprint for other states to follow, I am, hoping that this becomes something that falls into that category. Am I optimistic about that? Probably not. However, I am hoping that maybe one or two states, because, and let's be clear, Michigan got into the school grades game way late in the game. I know in Florida, they started giving school grades like 98 or 99, somewhere around there. Like I know it was after I graduated, but it was like right after I graduated. And um and a lot of states started that in the early 2000s. Certainly once Nickleby came into effect, most states had some type of grading system in place. So the fact that Michigan came into it in 2018, that's way, but we know that Michigan for a long time had been a heavily Democratic stronghold that flipped in 2016. And that's how in 2018, under the cloak of darkness, they were able to implement school grades. And let's be clear what implementing of school grades is. It it absolutely determines the allocation of funds from that State Department of Education. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Um, and the problem is they began taking away um, money from schools that were already underfunded. Then you start to talk about voucher programs where they start to give parents these vouchers where they can take their students out of there or their children out of those schools and send them to a private school or a charter school using public funds. Schools that may not even be better than the schools that they're leaving. They just may be in a better neighborhood. But you're talking about charter schools where you may have people who are not even certified to teach. You're talking about private schools that may be performing indoctrination on your kids, but you're paying public funds for that. So all of that is wrapped up into school grade. It has been an awful stain on education for the last 20 to 25 years. An awful stain on education, these school grades, these school accountability grades, which is why because school administrators are beat into submission, browbeat by district officials who say if your school gets a failing grade, you will be moved, demoted, and so forth. That then trickles down to the teachers who are told if your class does not perform at such and such level, you could get a negative performance review or evaluation from that particular principal. Matter of fact, in the school district that I was in with your boy Cavallo, who we'll talk about later, half of your performance, you got a score out of 100. 50% of that score was test scores. No questions asked. Could not even non-negotiable. The first 50%. Now, why is that a problem? Let me paint the picture for you. If Really B's my principal, who's known to kick me off a platform all the time and can't stand me, you know what Really B might do? Really B might say, "Oh, I got something for you, Dr. L. Teddy. See if you don't get all these level one students. See if you don't get all these kids that are performing in the lowest 25 percentile and see what you do with them. Giving you the worst kids with the worst behavior and the worst test scores, and now 50% of your evaluation is based off of some kids who are probably truant, not coming to school, don't care to be at school, may have all kinds of overarching situations going on at home that cause them not to be able to perform at school. And now my money and my evaluation for my job is based on things out of my control. 50%. No matter how good I do, that's just not fair. But that's what you got going on.
So I'm a ditto a lot of what you just said. I know in DC, like you said, we've had that school grading system in DC from the onset of Nickleby. And yes, it was absolutely used as a way to circumvent if a and I know for DC it coincided with gentrification. So at the same time that this grading system was you had a lot of people moving into DC, and yes, they were moving into a lot of the underserved neighborhoods and schools because, of course, that's what gentrification is. They come in and then they improve the neighborhood. And so what a lot of parents were doing was they were moving into these neighborhoods where the schools had D and F ratings. And the way DC used it was basically if you were in a neighborhood where your school had a D or F rating, then you basically could enroll your child into any school in DC that had a passing rating. So you essentially had people moving into neighborhoods where the schools were no good, but yet they were driving across town and enrolling their kids into, quote unquote, better schools. And so, yeah, and same thing, like you said, same thing with vouchers as well. So, yeah, that is weird that this is in 2018. That's weird. But we'll see.
Do you expect this to start spreading abroad to other, maybe some of the bluer states, but nowadays blue state, like for example, you're in Maryland. Do y'all still have school grades in Maryland?
Probably.
And I know Maryland is
I
a
mean, I
blue state.
can't say definitively because I don't think a lot of people are using them the same way they were using them under Nickleby. Once Nickleby sort of kind of became, I don't know if the states are using them with the same level of fervor that they were under Nickleby. I don't know that to be a fact, but
I just wonder because I know you're in Maryland. That's a blue state. Has
right.
a Democratic governor, Governor Moore. Shout out to him. And so, could this be something that they decided to do away with? You know, I'm not saying, and let's be clear, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any accountability. There shouldn't be any body looking into or assessing the performance of a school because you need that. However, I do believe that there are other ways with which to assess the performance of a school. There are other ways with which, just like we say, every student is not a good test taker. So that shouldn't be an assessment, shouldn't be the only measure by which a student is assessed, adjudicated, or graded. Neither should that be the same thing for, a school site.
I agree. I agree 100%. Like you will get no argument out of me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's something we can keep an eye on to see if this becomes a trend.
I
I
mean,
don't
it
know.
should be a part of it, but it shouldn't be the sole
And I think right
measure.
now, with everything we've been going through in the last 2 years, 3 years in education, I don't even think it should be that because a lot of the test scores aren't even counting. So if you're not going to count the test score for anything else, why would you count the test score for a school ranking when you're not counting it for graduation and you're not counting like I mean hell there was even a moratorium on the SAT and the ACT for a
Mhm.
year and AP and all of that. So I think that I just don't think that I agree. It shouldn't be the end all be all, but I don't even think it should be used right now. Until you're gonna start using it for what it's actually intended for. You know what I mean? Like, all right. Well, before we move on to our next story, I do want to read this. V. Carter followed up and gave us a little more information. She said JSU, Alcorn, and Mississippi Valley State sued the state of Mississippi for its money owed for underfunding. The heirs lawsuit was settled in the late 2000s. Mississippi made those three schools take 10% non-Black attendance in order to get their money. So it sounds to me like
That
there was
sounds like something that came through the state. That doesn't sound like
yeah,
a federal.
that came through the state. You're right. No, that came through the state, and that sounds like a compromise. It doesn't sound like they necessarily
Mhm.
won. It sounds like they settled, and there was a compromise. Okay. Well, thank you, V. Carter. I appreciate that information.
Yeah,
Thank
and
y'all.
that's why I say that scares me for Tennessee State because the very same people who told you they might take you over, in the same slice of bread as the people who you would be going to the judiciary system with.
Right. I agree. I agree. It's definitely it's definitely not what we were looking for. All right. The next case is a case coming out of the Supreme Court. I'll do it. I'll do the El Teddy. Supreme Court. All right. This is coming from AP News, and it is dated. I don't see the date. Hold on. I know it's a date here somewhere. And yesterday. Duh. All right. It's coming out of AP News. It's dated yesterday. The Supreme Court has ruled unanimously Tuesday for a deaf student who sued his public school system for providing inadequate education. The case is significant for other disabled students who allege they were failed by school officials. The case the justices ruled in involves Miguel Luna Perez, who attended public school in Sturgis, Michigan. Perez's lawyer told the court that for 12 years, the school system neglected the boy and lied to his parents about the progress he was making, permanently stunting his ability to communicate. The justices ruled that after Perez and his family settled a complaint against the school system, with officials agreeing to pay for additional schooling and sign language instruction, they could pursue money damages under a different federal law. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in an 8-page opinion for the court that it's not just for Mr. I'm sorry, ad popped up, literally popped right up. Give me okay. Holds consequences not just for Mr. Perez, but for a great many children with disabilities and remains difficult for Perez, who immigrated to the United States from Mexico at the age of 9, to make himself understood. As his lawyers say that the school system, by providing an aide who was not trained to work with deaf sign language, and in later years left him alone for hours at a time. After over a decade, Perez did not know any formal sign language and communicated through invented signs that anyone unfamiliar with his unique signaling did not understand. So he just made up his own sign language. Meanwhile, the school awarded him inflated grades, and his parents believed that he was on track to earn his high school diploma. Just before graduation, however, his family was told that he qualified only for a certificate of completion. His family responded by pursuing claims under 2 laws: the Broad Americans with Disability Act, which prohibits discrimination against disabled people, and the Individuals with Disability Education Act. The latter guarantees children with disabilities a free public education that is tailored to their specific needs. Perez's family and the school districts ultimately settled the IDEA claims. The district agreed to pay for extra schooling and sign language instruction for Perez and his family, among other things, and he graduated from the Michigan School for the Deaf in 2020. After the settlement, the family went to federal court and under ADA sought monetary damages, which are not available under IDEA. The lower court said that Perez was barred from pursuing his ADA claims because of language in the IDEA, but the Supreme Court disagreed. Gorsuch wrote, "We clarify that nothing in the IDEA bars this way." Perez's lawyer, Roman Martinez, said in an email statement, "We are thrilled with today's decision. The court's ruling vindicates the rights of students with disabilities to obtain full relief when they suffer discrimination. Miguel and his family look forward to pursuing their legal claims under the Americans with Disabilities Act." The superintendent of Sturgis Public School, Arthur Ebert, who joined the district after the settlement, said in the email that he was not in a position to comment on the details or the outcome of the case, but he said that he believes that every experience provides us with an opportunity to learn and grow. Through this too, he said, we will gain knowledge, insight, and understanding that will help us maximize every student's true potential. The Biden administration also urged the court to side with Perez. The case is Perez versus Sturgis Public Schools, 21-887.
The fact that Neil Gorsuch and the rest of his band of merry thugs over there down to the Supreme Court of the yet to be United States of America could agree on anything with the left is damn near an act of God. That just tells you how egregious this had to be. That tells you how horrible this really had to be for them to say, yeah, go ahead and run these people their money. That's basically what it was. Because the lower court said, nah, you got your schooling, the boy graduated, so you don't get nothing else. And the Supreme Court was like, yeah, run these people their money. Just run these people their money. Because y'all go around here lying to these parents. Now, really, you know as well as I do, how many schools across the country, from sea to shining sea, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, will roll up on a teacher and say, you know, you can't fail that student with disabilities. SWD? Oh, you're not going to fail them. No, no, you won't. Even if you follow all of the provisos and protocols and rules and regulations of the IEP, even if you go through all of the hoops, bells, and whistles that your school site and your school district tell you to do, you done dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, went back, dotted all the lowercase J's, and crossed all the lowercase F's. They still really be telling, stop me when I'm lying. A principal will still come and tell you, nah, you know you can't fail. Go ahead and change that grade to at least a C. These are the conversations. And you know full well as a professional educator, you were lying. You're lying. And they will force you and tell you that's gonna be your job. It might stop me when because I know really you work in with SWD kids. And for a long time, you were an advocate and so forth, and were going to schools. Is that not what happened? Are you frozen?
So there are a lot of layers to this. Am I frozen?
Oh no, no, you're not frozen no more. Okay,
Am I
you good.
frozen?
I thought you were frozen. No, 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 you
Oh.
good. You good. I got you.
There are a lot of layers to this, so I'm gonna break it down because there are a lot of layers. Yeah, everything you said is absolutely correct, but there are a lot of layers to this. Um, you right? You done?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead. You don't have a delay.
No, 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 you're fine. I just had a. No, 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 you're fine. You're fine.
So there are a lot of layers to this. So let me explain. So starting with what El Teddy said. Number one, the problem with IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Education Act, the problem with IDEA 1 and 2 is that it's a very lofty document, which does not always, it's a federal document. And we've already discussed how the federal government really has no jurisdiction over the destinations of a school system, right? So the federal government has passed this very lofty document that says that students with disabilities, all of these things must be done or you are in violation of the federal law. Here's the problem. In most school districts, even in the best school districts, it is very lofty and it is very hard to maintain all of the things that are written out in IDEA. Now, do students with disabilities deserve to have a lot of what's in IDEA? Absolutely. But until the federal government is going to fund, so we give you an example. What El Teddy just this case is a perfect example. IDEA says that he needed to have an aide, but he needed a specific aide. He needed an aide who knew at least knew American Sign Language, right? And he needed a dedicated aide, at least until he could. Really, he needed a dedicated aide because he was deaf. So finding a dedicated aide and finding a dedicated aide that knew American Sign Language, you only paying $20,000 a year. That's, I'm just telling you, that's going to be a hard pill to find in any school district. That's going to be hard. And I'm exaggerating with the $20,000, but aides make significantly less than teachers, and we already know teachers don't make nothing. So we're starting from the bottom, and that's part of the problem, right? Was this child violated, his rights violated? Absolutely. I don't think anybody's going to argue that this child didn't get what he was supposed to get in the school system, right? And then you wait until graduation. First of all, the parents should have been very aware that their child was on You have to let a child know whether they're on the certificate track or whether they're on the diploma track. You don't get
Let me
to
ask
de
you, can I
facto.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Renee? I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you a real quick question because you talked about graduation. My question is, if you're the parent of a child who's deaf, isn't it up to you as well to learn sign language so you can communicate with said child? I,
Yeah.
that just came in my head. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all were duped all the way up to the point of graduation into thinking that this child knew. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I
But
just
I
thought
think
about
the other element, but I think the other element that's not that we're missing in this is that I don't think the parents were probably fluent in English. They were immigrants, and I don't think they were fluent in English, and I don't think that they understood. And I think that's part of this specific story that's being kind of put to the side. But let me speak to this case. Here's why this case is significant, you guys. For those who don't understand, I worked as an advocate. So I was on the other side of the table. I was the person that was suing the school system when they didn't provide services. But under IDEA, you could not sue for a monetary settlement. You could only sue for services, right? So, like they said in this case, the school gave extra services, the school gave extra tutoring, the school gave all of these things, and then they put him in the school that's probably where he should have been to begin with, and he eventually was able to graduate, right? But because of IDEA, you cannot sue, or at least the interpretation of IDEA before this court case, you cannot sue for monetary damages. So you can't go after the school system and say, well, we want to sue for $2 million because our child is their growth is permanently stunted because of what you did to them, right? So what the parents tried to do was seek relief under ADA, where you can seek a monetary settlement. But what the practice has been up until this point is you take the service equal amount of money. So, for example, when I worked as an advocate, we had a student who wasn't getting tutoring, and what I had to do, what part of my job was to figure out how many hours of tutoring do we feel like it would take to get this kid where he needed to be, and then we had to calculate the monetary value of that tutoring. So no, we weren't going to give the parent a check for $800, but we were going to give the parent $800 worth of extra services. So does that make you understand what I'm saying? But why this is a deal breaker? This is going to bankrupt school systems. This is going to bankrupt or potentially bankrupt school systems, because now what you're telling parents is, oh, you can sue for some. And are there cases where parents should get some sort of monetary relief? Sure. But as somebody who worked as an advocate, and parents will be like, oh, they made my child sit down in the back of the classroom for 20 minutes yesterday. Can I sue them? See, you're going to start getting all of those people come out the woodwork. And if you think that there are ambulance chasers that follow car accidents, let me tell you that there are entire educational advocates who do law, educational law, that have built multi-million-dollar practices off the backs of suing school systems. I need y'all to understand that. This potentially could bankrupt a smaller school system, a rural school system that has that doesn't have the resources or the money. This is dangerous. This is dangerous.
The problem is, it is dangerous. The problem is, school systems for a long time have gotten away with not being truly accountable for saying what the progress of that child is.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like the pendulum is, swung all the way in a certain direction. But I do feel like sometimes when you go on way off kilter, you have to swing all the way in the other direction just to kind of start to even stuff out or
Well,
mitigate
that's the
the
problem with
vast.
IDEA to begin
Goodbye.
with. Yeah. And that's the problem with IDEA to begin with, because for so long, students with disabilities had no rights, and schools could literally, and I'm not exaggerating, literally just lock them in the basement for 8 hours and then send them home without any accountability, without any,
Mm-hmm.
repercussion. And so IDEA was developed as a way to hold the schools accountable for services that they had to provide to students with disabilities. Again, I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that parents should not have a remedy. What I'm saying though is there's going to be. It's sort of like when the Supreme Court struck down uh,
Roe v. Wade.
fundraising for campaigns.
Oh yeah. Campaign
Political
finance.
sort of kind of how that went, like. And as somebody who has seen it from both sides, like I literally worked as where we literally had parents call all day, every day, wanting to sue, wanting to, and DC, and I know I'm going off now. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna try to say this very quickly because I want to get to the teacher strike. DC had a court case called Blackman Jones where they were violating students with disabilities rights so egregiously that they were under receivership as a school system. And as part of it was called, the court case was called Blackman Jones versus DC Public Schools or something to that effect. If you Google Blackman Jones, DC Public Schools, it'll come up. And part of the settlement was that every kid who was violated or who was found to have been violated under the certain parameters, part of the settlement was they got a computer. And I cannot tell you how often we got phone calls from parents saying, yeah, my child got an IEP. Can I get a computer? Because that's, you know how it goes, El Teddy. One parent tell another parent, and next thing you know, all they wanted was their free computer. Can I get my computer? Can I? And mind you, this was 20 years ago. So nowadays it wouldn't be the same. But 20 years ago, you getting a free computer, it was like, can I get my computer? And so I'm translating that into money. And I'm like, this is about to be a run on the court system as it relates to violation. And again, I'm not saying that parents should not be able to seek, because there are some very egregious cases. But baby, it's going to be ugly. Whew. All right. Well, let's get into this strike, honey. El Teddy, you frozen? Is it me? Oh, you just was sitting still. Okay. Sometimes you sit still and it looks like you're frozen, but you just not. El Teddy, tell us what's going on in California. I know you've already. I mean, we have an article, but go ahead and just give it to us because I know you've already.
So basically, they're on strike. There was a last-ditch effort on Monday that did not work, and they're on strike. Now, this is the teachers that are striking. So school is closed yesterday, today, and tomorrow. However, the mayor, Karen Bass, she did make 30 recreation centers around the city available for kids from, I think, K through 5. If they wanted to go, and they also have grab and go lunches. Because and I'm not saying it's right, but one of the reasons why so many states are against strikes is it's the cost of childcare, also the cost of food and feeding these kids, because a lot of parents are already low income, or a lot of parents don't have extra money to go around. So when you're talking about having to provide an extra meal for 3 days, and you could maybe got a house of 4 kids in school, and now you have to provide an extra meal for 3 days for 3 kids, that's 12 meals if you got 4 kids. So they were providing grab and go lunches, as well as supervision of the kids by adults in the Parks and Recreation departments of Los Angeles. They're still at impasse. They made no progress. Ain't no progress being made. The problem is, I heard some people incorrectly reporting that teachers were getting paid less than 25,000. That's not true. I think teachers starting salary is mid 40s. in I think it's mid 40s in Los Angeles. And but you have cafeteria staff, secretarial staff, janitorial staff, bus drivers, and all of the other employees of the school system that may be making $25,000. Believe it or not, cafeteria workers and bus drivers are some of the lowest paid people in school districts. You'd be surprised how much cafeteria workers make. You would really be surprised. You'd be surprised how much bus drivers make, which is why there are bus driver shortages in every school district in every part of this country. There is not a school district in this country that doesn't have a shortage of bus drivers. And think about how bus drivers and cafeteria workers deal with some of the most egregious abuse at the helm of students, because even when students do things to teachers, there's still certain things in place where teachers um, can put some teeth in the punishments and penalties. For bus drivers and cafeteria workers, there's basically nothing in place. And the amount of verbal abuse and sometimes even physical abuse that those workers have to face or deal with at the hand of a child, and being told, yeah, you can't do nothing. And you paying me $8.50 an hour? You gotta be kidding me. And so that's what we're dealing with. Now, the superintendent of schools, Alberto Cavallo, who I have a lot of history with, used to work for him. Anyway, he's one of those student-centered superintendent. Damn, what happens to faculty and staff? Which, if you're going to be an administrator of a school district and school site or anything involving education, and you are saying it's student, 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 you have missed the mark. You've missed the mark, because students don't teach themselves. And until you understand that you're never going to have a functional school system unless you have a faculty and staff that want to come to work, that feel like they're appreciated, that feel like they're compensated, you're going to be, knocking your head against the wall. And Alberto Cavallo, he's not inept in his job. Let's be clear. He went from the fourth largest school district to the second largest school district. He went from having to deal with United Teachers of Dade to dealing with United Teachers of Los Angeles. So he's used to this. The difference with this is he's coming from Florida, where Florida is a right to work state. California is not. And so he's dealing with a whole different ball game. Now you got to sit at the table and talk to some people. Otherwise, people gonna start to say, "Hey, school board, we finna vote y'all out." And the school board getting voted out means the superintendent is going to be replaced. And the scary part for Cavallo is you left the fourth largest school district to go to the second largest school district. Number one and number three ain't knocking on your door, sir, to get a job. So now you're about to take a demotion and a significant pay cut. He'll get a job, but he's probably going to take a promotion and or a pay cut, even if he goes to, because what he may go to a university, but I still foresee him taking a pay cut, because university salaries, most of them are not paying you more than $400,000 a year. Let's just be clear.
So the question is, what is a right to work state? So Elsa, do you want to take that, or?
I'll let you go. I've been talking a lot. Me take a swig of this.
So a right to work state.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. you work. I was about to say, right to work state. Oh, Well, just correct me if I say it wrong, because you have more experience working in a right to work state. In most right to work states, you do not have the unions, or the unions do not have the same level of power. Right to work state means that there's not a lot of recourse if you are dismissed from your job. Yes, they still have to follow the federal guidelines of the EEOC, but you literally can show up for work and they can say your services are no longer needed, and they really don't have to give you much more of a reason than that. In my,
It's not that egregious. The main crux of right to work states is it cripples you in terms of saying that you can strike. That's one of the main reasons that they put it into place. Now, most right to work states, it doesn't have that much leeway in terms of you came to, we're here to work today and I can fire you for any reasons. Most right to work states, they don't have that. But the biggest penalty with right to work states is what it does to union. It allows the unions to collectively bargain in some right to work states and not all, in some. But the biggest thing is in right to work states, they what that means is if their services are needed to society, they cannot withhold those services to that community or municipality and have it be a detriment to that respective community. So that's the long and short. So the teachers in right to work states will not be striking. Yeah, they won't be striking.
Yeah. Right. And I know, like when I worked in North Carolina, again, I knew that my definition wasn't going to be a book definition, but yeah, it just takes away a lot of the rights of the workers, and it doesn't eliminate it, but it takes away a lot of the rights of the workers. So we're going to keep our eye on California. Of course, I stand in solidarity with the workers out there.
Can I say that I applaud the teachers? Can I say that because this is not about the teacher salary, which is low, but this is about the other members of the staff, those cafeteria workers and those other workers that are not necessarily teachers. This is about them, and I want to applaud the teachers because a lot of times there are teachers who are very selfish and they only care about, or a lot of times when you see pay raises, it's only given to instructional staff. Right. It's not given to anyone else. And the fact that all of these teachers were willing to shut down the school system for these people, I applaud them for that.
Yeah. Yep. I do too. And I ditto what El Teddy just said. I want to thank everybody who is here. If you have not hit the like button, please hit the like button. Please share. If you have not subscribed or you're catching us in the replay somewhere, it came across your YouTube timeline, if you could please hit that subscribe button. Again, we are trying to increase our visibility so we can get more information out to more people. With that being said, we're going to get ready to get out of here. We'll talk to you guys about what the union had to say to Ron DeSantis, because that we can do that next week. We try to keep it to an hour. We're a little bit over our time. El Teddy, any final words?
Follow me at El Teddy 27 official, and just keep the fight. Don't come off the mountain, off the wall. Keep fighting, because this stuff is going to get worse before it gets any better. I see you over there. This stuff is going to get worse before it gets better. So always, we'll be here to, for you all, and you all need to maintain that for other people that are around you. That's all.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I'm getting ready to hit the button. I am going live in about 30 minutes with Simone Redwine and Pam the Law Intellect. We will be breaking down the latest lawsuit by Bishop Lamar Whitehead, where he is suing the government informant that I've never heard of this before. But anyway, he is suing the government informant for $200 million for defamation. We will be breaking all of that down in about 30 minutes over on my channel. El Teddy will not be going live today, but make sure you guys are checking
I'll be back tomorrow for politics. I have a
afternoons
politics live tomorrow.
Right. So politics of it all. Maybe he'll be reporting on an indictment tomorrow. I don't know. Let's see.
Or if it happens anytime before then, I will go live and I will report.
Hey, that's an emergency 911, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna have to drop the link so we can clown. We can talk about it, clown. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Whew, honey.